Ready? So we have our Professor Vidisha Chaudhary also with us. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them up in the chat box. So we'll just go over a quick overview of the course, and then we'll open the session to doubts. So in just a moment. Okay, this course is called Towards an Ethical Digital Society, from Theory to Practice. So what it essentially does is, in the first few lectures, it gives us an overview of how ethics has been spoken about historically, starting from the basics, starting from how Aquinas talked about it, how Kant talked about it, and what is ethics in general and why it's worth looking into. And that's the introductory lecture. And then from there, we move on to how technology and ethics come together. And we look at different perspectives over there. And then from there, we move slightly ahead. And then we get into how, sorry. Okay. From there, we get into how sometimes this is operationalized and how this is implemented in terms of policies. And that's how we looked at the PDS case in Professor Amit's lecture, and how technology and governance come together. And we see the implications of how we theorize and how we think about ethics and how we implement them when there is distance between the two. What actually happens and what are the ground realities in such a case. And then from there, we move to how our cities are conceptualized. When we talk about smart cities and we particularly attach a technological meaning to them, what are the impacts of that when we retrofit technological solutions into our cities without actually understanding fundamental needs that vary from city to city, and what that does to our cities and our citizens. And so in this first portion, we make this shift from how we think of ethics and ethics and technology together, and how that understanding, when carried over to how we devise our solutions and how we think of our solutions, have an impact. And if there is a distance between these two, and if it's not locally curated, then what happens? So this is what we discover in the first portion of it. In the next portion, we move on to the finer details when we talk about data and the politics behind it, and then we delve a little deeper into how data is recorded. We speak about biometrics, we speak about facial recognition, and all of these things are discussed against the backdrop of what are the politics behind it, who get targeted, who has a say over how these things get to be implemented. And those are the questions that we're delving into. And then we move forward towards another sort of governance project, which is the MGNREGA and other such schemes, and what happens when data is conceptualized differently over there. And we get into a little bit of that. And then towards the end, we get into the larger question of AI and how ethics is much more important given the nature of AI today. And that's what we get into in the last two sessions, why ethics specific to AI is important, and how do we go about sort of operationalizing this, not just, letting this be in theory, not just conceptualizing it, but also translating this into practice, which is why the title of the course says From Theory to Practice. So this sort of comes together as a nice little start to end point, where we don't just begin with ethics in theory and technology and ethics in theory, but we also look at ways in which this can be converted into practice. And if not, then what are the implications of that? So that is roughly the journey that the course hopes to sort of accomplish. And now we're open to any questions. I have a small request from the team. If you could share the Excel sheet of the questions from the students with us on this Zoom call. We currently don't seem to have access to it. So if you could grant us access, or if you could share us an offline copy of it, that would be lovely. In the meantime, we can take some questions from the students.
There are nobody on the call right now. I don't know if there are any questions being asked in the live stream. So we'll have to wait.
Yeah, this is also live on YouTube, so I'm also heading out over there. So for those of us who are, for those of you who are watching us on the live NPTEL channel, if you have any questions, please type it on the YouTube chat box and we will take them up over here. Thank you. I remember in the, I think one of the students in the previous sessions, or one of the sessions, wanted some more insight into the quadrants of looking at technology, which is the determinism, voluntarism, instrumentalism. So if you could tell us a little bit about that before we get any questions, that would be great, Professor.
Is there a way we can sort of share our screen and show that quadrant? It might be an easier way.
Useful. Yes. Let me just pull that up in the meantime. Can you see my screen? Is it visible?
Yes, I can see your screen. Yeah. I hope those who are watching the live stream or on this call are also able to see it. So this quadrant basically talks about the kind of relationship that we try to map between technology and society. So if you look at this quadrant, which is voluntarism versus determinism. So determinism is most of the time, this is mostly uh, the popular way of thinking about technology and society relationship. So we think that the technologies are kind of finished products where we don't have much uh, input to give. So we as users only receive them as they're given to us. And technologies are built and designed in a inner logic, which is beyond the user's understanding or users agency. And once they're out there as a finished products, they kind of determine how they will shape different aspects of our life. So that's where the technology determinism comes in, that where the technology is basically independent of any social influence or any social factors, and they are independently generated and then independently has an impact on our social life. On the other hand, of this spectrum is voluntarism, which basically talks about the opposite thing, that we are absolutely free in the way we use technologies and how we develop these technologies. So that means the kind of technologies that we have, it relies only on social and other non-technical factors and human agency. There is no technology itself does not have a role to. In the vertical axis, there are two ways of thinking about it. When one is that technologies do shape societies in a very significant way, and here the operational word is shaping rather than determining. So that means they have an influence, but this influence is not absolute. That influence depends on different factors. And on the other end of the spectrum is instrumentalism. Instrumentalism basically means that technologies by themselves do not have any specific impact. So the impact depends on how we are going to use it. So for example, we say that guns don't kill by themselves. It up to the human being whether they use it to kill people or not, that guns become dangerous weapon. So what we are trying to do in this course is to show that neither of these spectrum on the relationship is completely correct. So we usually, based on where we come from, and the connection where we find ourselves will shape what kind of ethical considerations we are able to incorporate into the relationship between technology and society. I'll just give a small example. So if we say that technologies have a role to play in the way they shape and influence our decision making, that means that we cannot take this point that guns don't kill by themselves. It's only human being make that choice. Why? Because guns definitely shape our behavior. So if I have a gun and if I find myself in a situation, the fact that I have the gun and the gun has a certain property, which is its ability and potential to harm, physical harm and killing, will have an impact on the way I choose to behave in a context. So in that sense, that it's not completely it's not that I would have, maybe if I did not have the gun, I would not have killed or behaved in a certain way in that particular situation. So on the horizontal axis, that it's somewhere in the middle, right? That we also decide as human beings what kind of technologies that we are going to build, but at the same time, there are certain trajectories of technology. So that means what kind of technologies that are available before us will also shape the kind of technologies that will come after that. So if you are someone for whom the relationship between technology and society falls somewhere between voluntarism and substantism, the way you will think about the impact of technology and the ethics around it will will be shaped accordingly. So if you think that human beings do have a role in the way technologies are developed, and once these technologies are developed, they do influence our behavior. That means it's like a mutual shaping of each other, right? That we shape the kind of technologies we build, and those technologies then, in a way, shape our behavior. If you understand that, and that is what we are trying to sort of promote through this course, is that this is what the fundamental of the relationship between technology and society, this mutual shaping. And if we understand this mutual relationship, this reciprocal relationship between technology and society, our ethical questions and consideration will not be just about the impact of technology once they are built, but also engage with the questions of what kind of technology we are designing. So the ethical consideration would also come at the design phase of the technology and follow it through until the impact of the technology. I hope that sheds some light on this topic.
Yeah. I think that was a very succinct explanation on the quadrant. As of now, we don't see any questions on the YouTube link. And so maybe we will.
There is one question somebody is asking, what does ethical digital society mean?
Yes.
So I think that's a very broad question and not really, I don't know how to answer that unless and until you have already taken, gone through the modules of the course. So my request would be to be slightly more specific. So I'm assuming that if you are on the call, that you have taken the course or you have followed through the modules. So, and my belief is that we kind of made it. That was the whole point of the course. So if you specifically tell us what part of it was not clear, it would be easy for me to answer.
Okay. In the meantime, if we don't see any queries here, I think we can take it up in the discussion forum, and you can always write to us on the forum, and we will get back to you with answers. And if those are the questions, maybe we should give it another 5 minutes, and then maybe we can wind down about the larger takeaways. We can just sort of summarize what we hoped the course would help people do. I mean, I think we've already done that. And if there are no more questions, we can wrap up in 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah, sure.
Just as an announcement for logistical, queries about the exam or the certificate or assignments, please feel free to write to us on the discussion forum. Please also feel free to write to the NPTEL support team. They will be able to help you out, and we will also relay your message about any kind of logistical questions that you might have about the course. And obviously, ask us your questions about the concepts discussed in the course on the discussion forum as well. Yeah, maybe we can give it another 2 minutes and then we'll wrap up. The larger takeaway, I think, from this course, the objective was to put technology and ethics together and start thinking about how they matter, not just in terms of corrective measures and not just in terms of how retrofitting technology impacts the people it is meant for, but also in terms of how we can make ethics part of the conversation right from the start, starting from, is technology the answer to everything? And if technology is the answer, then how can we make it an answer that probably answers a question specific to that particular problem that we're attempting to solve? So that is the larger objective of the course, and we hope that you've learned something from the course. And yeah, I'll just check the live chat. Where can we use these certificates? I think that's a question best answered by the NPTEL team. So I will leave that to them. So maybe you can write to them and talk to them about it. So that's another query on the YouTube live chat. If anybody has any queries about concepts discussed in the course, please feel free to ask us. We will be wrapping up in another 2 minutes. So
Yeah, I'm just going to like quickly respond to that question. I think it might be a question which is made for NPTEL team for specific applicability of the like what
of
are
this
the
course,
eligibility and credibility of such certificates. But
okay.
if you're just asking what is this course is useful for, I think that if you are somebody who work in a team where new technologies are designed, or any technology for that matter, are being designed, or you work in a uh, maybe not a product team, but if you work on a government team or solution team where you understand what's kind of user need that your technology would cater to, and you're trying to map the understanding of how users are going to perceive this technology, how users are going to be impacted by the introduction of technology, then this course will be useful to I'm not sure if you overnight will be able to steer all sorts of ethical consideration into your product design and solution design, but at least this course will give you some perspective to steer away from harmful or adversarial impact of technology. That is the hope with which we kind of design this course. So I just thought that might be just one way to think about the usefulness of this course.
Right. And I think that was a good note to sort of wrap the whole thing up. We started off with what the course goes through, and we have come full circle and talked about what was the objective behind the course and what the learners can hopefully take away from this. I will end by saying again that you can always write to us on the discussion forum with queries. If you want to discuss examples, we'll be there and we can take them up. As far as logistical queries goes, you can also write to us over there and we will relay your queries to the NPTEL team and we will get back to you. If that's about it on this live, and I think we can close this and take up the rest of the questions on the discussion forum. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Swati. Thank you, Ravi.
Thank you. Thank you, NPTEL team. Thanks for putting this together. Thank you to our students. We hope you had a good learning experience through this course. Thanks a lot.